There's this bizarre twist to a cold case that has now been solved after more than 4 decades.
43 years after police found 18-year-old Debra Miller dead in her apartment, they have identified her killer, 68-year-old James Vanest. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because officers actually shot and killed Vanest during a SWAT situation in North Canton last month.
The case was reopened and reinvestigated a number of times since 1981, but it was new DNA technology and a new approach to the case that led them to the suspect. That suspect, however, was shot and killed by police in a shootout in Canton in November and will never be brought to justice through the legal system. It happened in 1981. This woman, 18-year-old Debra Lee Miller, found dead in her apartment in downtown Mansfield.
The door was ajar to her apartment. One of the persons there that was doing the inspection of the building stepped inside, and it was a very bad scene.
The inspector immediately called police, who arrived on scene, and so did then Richland County Prosecutor John Allen.
At the time, that was the worst, most brutal homicide I've ever encountered.
She'd been bludgeoned with a cast iron stove grate and pots and pans. She was found in what investigators called a gruesome scene. Investigators talked to the man upstairs.
He had been questioned during the initial investigation, but was never identified as a suspect.
The case was reopened in 1989, but investigators were still not able to solve the murder. In 2021, detectives, along with DNA experts, took another crack at the case. That led them back to the man who lived upstairs, James Vanest.
Detective Butler felt that Mr. Vanest was trying to create an alibi by justifying his DNA being present in the apartment, even though Detective Butler had never breached that topic. Mr. Vanest also admitted to lying to investigators during his first interview in 1981. Mr. Vanest ended the second interview in 2024 before it could even begin.
I think he knew the walls were closing in on him.
Mansfield police say a few weeks after that second interview, Vanest sold his house in Ohio and fled to West Virginia. He was arrested by West Virginia officials on weapons charges, but he bonded out of jail and ultimately headed back to Ohio. This November, ATF agents attempted to arrest Vanest for federal gun charges at a motel in North Canton.
That led to a shootout. A police officer was injured, and police shot and killed Vanest. Police say it shows they never give up on a case.
We don't give up. We keep digging. We're going to keep the investigation going. The case is never closed. It may be cold, but we still look at it.
Now, police say that evidence makes it clear that Vanest was the killer of Debra Miller. Though the new information won't bring Debra Miller back, Mansfield police hope it will bring the community some closure. And even now, her friends still keep her memory alive.
She was just so funny and such a sweetheart, and would just do anything for anybody.
Police say they consider the evidence against Vanest to have been overwhelming, and they now say the case is closed. The Richland County prosecutor was here today and says that her office was just about to take that case to the grand jury when police shot and killed Vanest in November.
We have to now respect the victims and their families. The victims are the surviving family and friends. Let's keep them in our heart. Peace and love from CrimeTime with DutyRon.